You know how I feel about a great conversation and a good story, but you have no idea how I feel about a good cup of tea because they're all coming together for today's guest. We're speaking to Joyanne Carter of Cahlong, the wooden bags. You've seen the features. Now we're going to get the story. Joyanne, welcome to the Pivot Series.
Thank you so much, Gaynell. I'm really happy to be here.
I am so happy you said yes to
Thank
this
you.
because I don't think you understand, or maybe you do, what a hot topic these Kalong purses are. I'm just getting straight to the bag. Let's just get the bag.
Sure.
How did we get here, and what does Kalong represent?
Cahlong represents everything that is Barbados. So Cahlong has its genesis in our company, our woodworking company called Craftworks Designs. And we only manufacture products that are made from Barbadian woods. So many times persons think that it's only Barbados mahogany, but we utilize over 20 something different varieties of wood that you'll find growing
Oh,
here. So the genesis of Cahlong came from Craftworks as we were looking to innovate and we wanted to do things differently. So we started off with Craftworks with pens, and then we went into functional items like kitchenware. I designed a lighting series doing chandeliers. And then after that, it was like, okay, what next? And in keeping with the Barbadian theme, I wanted to be able to do personal accessories, but give it a name that was very unique. And the word Cahlong was one that I just always loved in our Bajan dialect. And for those that don't know, Cahlong really means to carry it along or come along. So Cahlong your things, Cahlong Barbados. And we want to continue to do that and showcase the natural resources that we have. So that's how Cahlong was created.
now, I always find it very, very fascinating to see how things align. When I see you, I see the corporate exec, I see the marketer, I see this individual, and then I see this wonderful craftsmanship, pure artisan, and I'm like, how did that happen? Were you always an entrepreneur?
I always was an entrepreneur. The corporate came afterwards.
Oh, you did it the other
But from
way.
the other way, from the age of 10, I was managing my own
I'm
businesses.
sorry, from the age of
From the age of
the
10,
1-0.
the 1-0,
What were we
before
managing?
11 plus, I was doing cakes. When I was 8,
Fabulous.
my mom enrolled my sister into a cake icing class. And I thought, well, that's unfair. Why not me as well? She's 3 years older than me. So I also was enrolled in the cake icing class. By 9, I had done my own wedding cake, the very first wedding cake at 9.
A wedding
A
cake?
wedding cake,
Like three-tier and all?
along with my instructor. But
Right.
yes,
But
did a
still.
wedding cake. So by 10, I've always wanted to do things with my hands. Always very creative, whether it is in the kitchen, baking, cooking, or making things. So by 10, I wanted to do cupcakes. And I created a line of cupcakes and I sold it at 2 convenience stores. I did that for a couple years. And then
Wait,
when I
step back. I thought you were going to say took it to Girl Guys, was a hit,
no,
outdid the
no.
cookies. Convenience stores?
2 convenience stores, two that stand out. There was a guy, Herbie Yearwood. He had a store at the bottom of Golf Club Road. And I went and I spoke to him, and he was very impressed that this young, small girl was doing these things. And then a guy that had Tysical Wildy, Don Lane, he also took them in as well. So when I was around 11, 12, I was doing cupcakes and selling them to 2 convenience stores.
That is
Yeah,
awesome. Before you even did your exam,
that's
there
right.
you are making sure you're tallying up the sales for
Yeah.
the evening. That is amazing. So I got to ask though, you would have to have a certain kind of parent that would encourage, even allow this to flourish.
Yes.
Most of them, like when you get older, or
Yes.
we'll talk about it later, but you're 10 and you're running.
My parents were always very supportive of my sister and I. They always wanted to allow us to do things and create things, and they provided the resources to be able to do that. So when we were probably maybe when I was around 9, 10, we got our first sewing machine. We didn't know how to sew, but we got our first sewing machine. So it was really just to continue to do things. And those were the good old days, not with children all on their units and devices or whatever. You're finding creative things to do. And they really did encourage that and allow that to flourish in me. So by the time I was in my teens, I had moved on from the cakes and I got into fashion. That was my first little piece into fashion. I did hair accessories, scrunchies at school.
Oh
Not
yeah.
supposed to sell them at school, but I was selling them at school.
Ooh, rule breaker.
And then I was also designing shirts, buying T-shirts and putting fabric appliques on them, and painting them and selling them to everyone. One of my favorite customers was my next door neighbor. Whenever I did some, I called her up and I told her about it and that sort of thing. So it was always in me. I always wanted to be able to create and design. So as I got older, I continued to do that. And when I finished university, I dabbled a little bit into the corporate world, but then I went into entrepreneurship by just walking away from a job one day, just deciding, well, no, that's not for me. And I called up a company and I pitched this idea. The lady on the end of the line, her name was Linda Maxwell. I really need to be able to say, Linda, she's now Linda Holder. While she didn't have the need at that particular time, she transferred me to a guy by the name of Shane Thomas. And I pitched this idea. I did not have resources, I did not have employees, but I pitched the idea that I wanted to do event marketing and have a sampling company. And they were sold. And that's how I truly, truly got my feet well entrenched, in my early 20s into entrepreneurship. And that flourished for several years. Yeah.
There's something to be said about the audacity of our youth because we might think once, twice, probably three times before we decide we're going to do this. No resources, no background, basically nothing that suggests, yeah, this young lady can do this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take you back a little bit. You did go what I guess Barbadians would call the traditional route. You did go to school. You did go to higher education, and you did get the proverbial job.
Yes.
But then one day you were just like, no.
So straight out of university, I did management studies here. Straight out of university, I started in corporate, found my footing a little bit in advertising, and I really did like that. And then, I wanted to do something different. I went into the offshore field, and then I still wanted to do, there was still a calling.
Right.
Within me, I feel like as an entrepreneur, you really want to make sure that you keep, fueling that fire. And, I created a company called Events Plus, and I did, like I said, sampling and marketing. And I felt like even though I didn't have the experience or knowledge, I had the book sense from the university. I had that experience from doing things from when I was very young, and I really enjoyed it. I went through the whole paces of marketing at that time, wines and spirits for the company, and having my own set of employees. But like I said, at the beginning, I didn't have any of that. I just had a dream and a vision and a level of confidence that I think that some of those persons that I went to 1st really saw and really adopted and really allowed me to be able to grow into being an entrepreneur.
The Estates at St. George is the first of its kind in the Caribbean, a visionary concept of an active lifestyle residential community catering to people at every stage of their adult lives. The Estates at St. George represents a unique opportunity to live an independent and active lifestyle in an elegant apartment home surrounded by a wealth of amenities in a secure environment.
I want to ask you a question. Do you think that being an entrepreneur, like a natural entrepreneur, does require that thing that it's not enough? It's always the next thing. I don't want to say lack of contentment,
Yes.
but it's just that you just want to push yourself to the next level. Do you kind of have to have that switch in order to be an entrepreneur?
I do believe so. To be a successful entrepreneur, you have to keep innovating. You have to be able to think, okay, what is going to be different? Have that differentiation strategy. Gaynella used to say when we first started going to the woodworking circuit, you would see persons doing a lot of things that were very much the same. And And I used to, laugh with my husband, Stephen, say, it's almost like a Me Too. This was before the international Me Too.
Oh.
I used to say, persons will say, I want to be able to make this particular type of jewelry. And so we'll say, Me Too, woodworking, Me Too. But we always wanted to do something different and be able to set ourselves apart. And to me, I think that was one of our defining, factors for the success of Craftworks, which was then the parent of Cahlong and how we've just naturally progressed, just being different and developing those differentiation strategies to set you apart from your competitors.
Now let's talk about the genesis of Craftworks, because it's
Yes.
kind of intertwined into your personal genesis
Yes.
with your now husband. How did Craftworks come to be?
Craftworks came to be with two persons, my husband and I, just having a love for DIY. And we will pick apart things in the house, we will make things. We have a love for tools and gadgets. And it just evolved into that we really wanted to start doing things. So at that point, I was very much entrenched into corporate life, and he was too. He's an engineer. I'm a corporate executive in sales and marketing. But then it came to a point where we said, you know what, we believe that we can actually make a difference on the landscape here with some types of products made by Barbadians with Barbadian resources. So he took the plunge and he went fully out into entrepreneurship. We started in 2013 making pens, so ballpoint, rollerball, fountain pens.
Yeah, I remember those.
And then that wasn't enough for us because everyone is not a pen aficionado. So it was, okay, what next? Again, the differentiation strategy, trying to make sure that you're innovating all the time. So we went into functional wear, kitchen accessories, serving ware, charcuterie boards. Then we went into awards. Then I designed a line of chandeliers and light pendants. Chandeliers out of mahogany, out of Pride of India, out of cement, out of bay leaf, any type of wood that you find growing here in Barbados. We are very much interested in experimenting with it and producing things because, again, you really want persons to look and say, that's made here. That's made from wood growing here. That's
Right.
that tree that I have in my backyard. That is actually what it looks like. And that brings us a lot of joy that persons then have a greater appreciation for the resources that we actually have growing here. So after the pendant lighting and the charcuteries and the awards, then it was what next?
There's that switch again. The what next?
What next? And it was about 5 years ago. I had the name in my head all the time, Cahlong, Cahlong. How am I going to use the word Cahlong into what we're doing? And I started to think about personal accessories, fashion accessories, and wooden handbags just clicked. And I said, this is something that's coming back up. We can do it with a sense of refinement and elegance and really make it that fashion piece that women would be able to have. And it took a few years, a little bit of procrastination and prioritizing because, again, he's doing the full-time entrepreneurship. I'm doing it on the side because I do have a corporate life between 8 and 4:30. So it did take a little time. But last year, we said, look, we've been sitting on this for a long time, and this is the time. So in December 2023, we launched and had a very good reception from our repeat customers that Craftworks had, as well as new ones. And then this year, May, it just blew up based on so many things that we had set, that we really wanted to be able to do. So in May, we went to an event called Fashion Has No Borders, managed by Rodney Powers. And he had three well-known business persons from overseas coming to do workshops. And I said, if there's one thing that I want to be able to get out of this event is collaboration. And the three were David Wonka, who's very well known for beauty and fashion, facial products, skin creams, that sort of thing. Dr. Courtney Hammond, well-known fashion influencer and a senior editor of Upscale magazine. And Antonia Fifi, very well-known fashion influencer based in Canada with Trinidad and Venezuelan roots. So I said, I would love to sell the handbags. I would love to interact with our customers, but the one thing I really want to be able to do is to pitch my story in front of those persons. And we were very successful with that.
And this story is just going to keep getting better and better.
Very well. Yep, that's true.
You mentioned a name that a number of Caribbean women and women from abroad know as well. On Instagram, she's known as Tony Fifi. Can I tell you, the day that I saw her feature her Cahlong bag, which technically was my Cahlong bag, I thought to myself, this is awesome. Oh, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
Since then, she's been to a graduation, a picnic, a hike. She's done it. And she takes this bag with her all the time.
Yes.
What is your actual opinion of the influencer culture and does it work?
You really have to be able to align with the correct influencers. Many persons want to be influencers, but they have to have, for me, a certain je ne sais quoi. You know, you want to make sure that your product is what that person will believe in and that their mantra is also something that you believe in as well. So I do think that there is very much a happy marriage that can happen with working with influencers and being able to collaborate.
Because no one can tell me that you didn't make that bag specifically for her. That's how she treats it, and that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. And you know, the thing about our bags at Cahlong is that no two will be the same. So
That's right.
because of the wood, because of the striations and the beautiful colors. And I don't set out to say, okay, every single bag in a particular collection must be 3 inches of mahogany, 2 inches of bay leaf, 4 inches of Pride of India. When I go into the workshop, I look for wood, like if you're looking for candy in a store. And I'll say, I like this, I like this, I like this. I will cut them up in various random sizes and I'll put them together. So when you get a Cahlong bag, you're getting something that's very, very unique. Since Tony has started to utilize that bag, I've gotten many requests saying, I want that bag.
That bag, right.
And I need to be able to say, okay, the style of bag, you will get a similar bag, but it will be very different and unique. And persons really appreciate that because they feel like if it's theirs, you know, it's not something that I'm going to see someone have the very same thing. And that is the beauty of our products in being unique.
What I love about what you've been saying just now is when I go to the workshop, when I cut the wood, when I do let me see your hands, because these must be the hands of an artisan. You do the work, don't you?
No pretty fingernails. I do quite a bit of the work. I do all of the design work. I will be in the workshop alongside my husband, and I am cutting the wood, I'm planing the wood, I'm sawing the wood, I am doing all the different carvings. When people look at me and they know me from a corporate realm, you know, when we go out and we showcase some of our products, whether it's Cahlong or whether it's Craftworks, they automatically assume that I am the person behind with the sales and marketing and the administrative side.
It makes sense though.
Yes, I am that person, but I'm also the person that's always in the workshop alongside my husband and doing a lot of the work. And I think the stigma that is there that women don't do some of these hard types of things is what we really need to be able to overcome. Yes, there are opportunities for us to break a lot of barriers. You know, and yes, there are opportunities for us to be able to craft various skills. And I think it's really important that you start that from young and get that into the school system, have the support of family, that persons understand that it's not just what we believe to be the traditional type of work that is there as an opportunity, but skilled artisans and craftspersons and tradesmen, you can do a lot in this world.
Yeah, so we're not just doing woodwork to take home yet another bowl to our parents to say this is how we spend our time. It could be a Cahlong collection.
That's right.
Which, by the way, also includes accessories like those stackable bangles that I die for.
Thank you. Yes, so the personal accessories along the jewelry line, that came after the handbags.
Right.
And it's something that I am continuing to grow and evolve But right now, our focus is on a lot of the handbags and bangles. In time, I will actually then perhaps then move on to necklaces. But for me, what I want to do is be able to make sure that I've covered one particular area
Right.
well, and then be able to innovate and go forward. So the stackable bangles just works. It's something that I like. I'll also have some thin styled ones as well, but I do like chunky jewelry.
Oh
Really
gosh,
do.
yes. So how do you manage to keep your personal desires from going on to the next thing versus let me scale this business appropriately for the market that exists today?
Yeah.
Like that must be a bit of a tussle.
It is a bit of a tussle, especially for someone like my brain. It just doesn't turn off. So I'm forever thinking about new and exciting things that I want to be able to do, but I also have to be realistic with how I want to scale. You don't want to scale too quickly. Fast is not always the best approach. You want to be steady. You want to be determined, and you want to be able to understand, okay, let us do this particular type of collection or product now, and be able to really fine tune how you want to market it. How are you going to position it? What's your demographic going to be like? How are you going to scale? How are you going to get it to someone in Hawaii or in Scotland or whatever it is? So we sit down and I would put all of that in paper, and that's a lot to do with my current work, corporate, as well as my experiences in the past, whether it was with my previous businesses or whether it was with education. Just really sitting down and putting it down on paper to say, okay, right, how am I positioning it? What's going to be my price point? How am I going to make myself separate from the other competition? And that is something that I keep thinking about all the time.
Right.
How to be different in a world that you have a lot of similarities, that you're really going to be able to stand out and have that product that people say, I want that.
Yeah. You have a lot of the bases covered because you've had the best of both worlds. You've had the corporate side, the educational side, you've had the practical side.
Right.
What are some of the things that you have learned that you wish our market forces or our entrepreneurial space could keep up with to make your job easier to do, easier to branch out, easier to even accept payments from other parts of the world and, encourage the delivery? What do we need to get up to speed on?
I think a lot of it has to do with access.
Yeah.
Access to training and development, access to financing, access to basic things like e-commerce that, for me, I think within a Barbadian landscape, we still think that this big, hairy, scary monster, but really and truly, it's something so run of the mill right now within the world that it should be easy for you to be able to come onto platforms. It should be easy for you to associate your bank account to an e-commerce platform and be able to just move quickly. So I do think that there's still things that have to be done to be able to catch up with the world. We are growing phenomenally as a country, and we need to make sure that those necessary resources are keeping up with that globalized village in which we are part of.
The day that it happens, where do you see Craftworks, Cahlong, the vision?
The day that it happens, to me, I want our brands to be lifestyle brands. I want you to be able to understand that you can utilize them in the office, you can utilize them at work, doing your desk job if you're out on the road, doing corporate meetings. I want that the kitchenware is something that is integrated into what you're doing, and then when you're going out with your friends, you're carrying along a Cahlong bag and have some exceptional jewelry, all from woods growing here in Barbados.
That's the most amazing point because we were speaking earlier and you were speaking about bay leaf. I'm like, yes, wonderful tea, great in your pot. And you're thinking, but it's such a hard wood. I'm like, really?
It is a very hard wood. I think it's one of the hardest woods that you find here growing in Barbados, as well as guava. So people think that Barbados mahogany is a hard wood, but it's not the hardest wood that we have here. We've got beautiful lignum vitae growing here as well, one of the hardest woods in the world. So, they are beautiful woods. You just need to be able to cut them open to see the beauty. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on are our finishes. We want that when you run your hand across one of our products, you can feel the natural grain of the wood, but you can also have a sense of, wow, this is extremely smooth. So we spend a lot of time on the quality finishes.
Oh, we're going to be touchy-feely in a minute with all of your products, especially the ones that you have here. But
Yeah.
do you sometimes sit back and ask yourself, in the words of Urkel, did I do that?
I do. I really do. And I think this past May was one of those kind of feelings. My Mays usually start off a little depressing for me for personal reasons. And I just felt like if the Lord said this year, like, no, you're going into a different type of
We're
gear.
changing May for you.
We are changing it. We want to be able to push you really hard to do what you want to do. So I felt like going to the Fashion Has No Borders event and meeting Dr. Courtney Hammond and Antonia Fifi, I felt like if that really pushed me out there. And when Tony, styled her bag and it dropped on Mother's Day, well, I almost fell off the floor. See, I can't even get it out of my mouth. I almost fell off the couch onto the floor. And I was just so happy because I'm like, okay, I've done it. I know that some of our products have gone internationally, especially with Craftworks, because we do a lot of things for government and corporate entities that will go throughout
Wonderful
the world.
gifts, yeah.
But for Cahlong, this was new. It had started 6 months ago. And now this was with one of the leading fashion influencers that you have now on IG and TikTok. And she's talking about my bag.
Like it's a must go. Like what?
It's
Get
a
my
must.
keys and my Cahlong bag.
So, for me, that was one of the defining moments because everything then just kind of like blew up. And I really have to be very thankful, for what she did, because as an influencer, you don't necessarily have to keep doing it, but Tony really loves her bag. She loves her bag, and I really love her for loving her bag. And that has really opened up some new opportunities for me, really has.
That's always going to be a fabulous story to tell, but ultimately, when people look at their Craftworks and their Cahlong products, what story do you want them to tell?
That they're taking a piece of Barbados with them, that they're taking pride and industry, fine craftsmanship, and that we are telling a different story, not just the sun and the sea and the people. We're talking about some additional resources as well, and that things can be created in different ways. Once you just change your perspective and how you actually look at an industry, you will realize that there are a lot of opportunities. So I want people to be able to say, I have a piece of Barbados walking with me, and it's a piece that I can be very proud of.
So one final question for you. Do you ever think that you'll close the door to corporate once again and say, listen, I am all in?
Well, for me, I can't see myself working in corporate until I'm 67. It used to be 65 and now it's 67. I can't necessarily see that. I really enjoy what I do. I do have that level of flexibility to be able to grow and develop brands. But as an entrepreneur, you always have that deep fire within to continue to grow and innovate your brands. And like I said, corporate came after entrepreneurship. So it's my entrepreneurship love is always
It's first love.
there. It's always going to be there.
Joanne, we could do this all day, sip all brands of tea, which we will, and continue to speak about Cahlong because I feel so empowered for you every time I see one.
Thank you so much.
This has been a fabulous conversation.
Thank you.
The ebbs and flows of this story and the unexpected month of May were everything about this particular episode. It's a good thing I had my Bigelow tea, right? You should tea this way too. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another in the Pivot series.
With Flow Business's new smart solutions powered by super fast, reliable broadband, you'll feel like there are more versions of you working for you. From website design, development, and digital marketing to promote your business, 24/7 business class support to cloud solutions, security, and more. Multiply your growth today.